Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 19 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And, of course, joining me today is my faithful co-host, my adoring wife, my dear Sarah Coryell. Sarah, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Well, thank you, Skip. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here again.
All right, great. I'm glad to hear that. 'Cause, you can pick your friends, but you're stuck with your relatives. Well, Sarah, what do we have on the show today?
Well, today we're talking to Barry County Sheriff Dar Leaf all about the law enforcement challenges of domestic violence, drug addiction, and mental illness. Then, in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be speaking with firearms instructor Houston Denham about thieves being shot with their own guns. That should be fun.
Yeah, I like Houston. He's from Oklahoma, and he's got that accent, I like that. But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. All right, Sarah, start us out with a news article. What's going on in the news? The big news item this week is what?
Well, starting on January 7, 2025, an ongoing series of catastrophic wildfires have affected the Los Angeles metropolitan area and surrounding regions. The fires have been exacerbated by very low humidity, dry conditions, and hurricane-force Santa Ana winds that in some places have reached 100 miles per hour. As of January 11, the wildfires have killed 11 people, forced nearly 180,000 more to evacuate, and destroyed or damaged more than 13,400 structures. Most of the damage has been done by the two largest fires, the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire. The windstorm and resulting fire danger was well forecasted. On January 2nd, the National Interagency Fire Center warned that conditions in Southern California fostered above normal significant fire potential. That same day, local National Weather Service forecast noted the potential for intense fires. The following day, the Storm Prediction Center forecast a critical risk of fire weather that would occur on January 8, on January 3rd, and by January 7. On the first day of critical fire weather in the area, forecasted an extremely critical risk for fire weather for January 8. The Los Angeles Fire Department faced a budget reduction of approximately $17.6 million in the fiscal year of 2024 to 2025. This cut, implemented by Mayor Bass in July 2024, before the January wildfires, drew criticism, also from Chief Kristen Crowley, for potentially compromising the department's ability to respond to emergencies effectively. According to J.P. Morgan estimates published on January 9, the insured losses from the fires were projected to exceed $20 billion, which would set a new record for wildfire-related insurance claims in U.S. history. This figure would substantially surpass the previous record of $12.5 billion in insured damages set by the 2018 Camp Fire, as documented by Aon. A total economic loss of $50 billion was predicted by J.P. Morgan, which AccuWeather predicted could rise to $57 billion. J.P. Morgan noted that these figures could rise further due to the fire's continued spread and lack of containment. There have also been several reports of individuals looting evacuated houses amidst the chaos. As of January 9, at least 20 people had been arrested for looting, though no details were released. Officials condemned the looting, including Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger, who elaborated that the looters were targeting vulnerable communities. National Guard troops were deployed to some burn areas to provide protection against looting.
All right, Sarah, what do you think about that? I have a feeling that your opinion might be a little bit different than mine. So let's start with you because you're my better half. What do you think about all that?
I think it's really sad. It's horrible. All the horrible wildfires, all that damage, it's terrible. Some of those are really wealthy homes. Might be an interesting learning experience for some of their owners.
Yeah, well, I've been watching a lot of the news articles coming through. I watch the news a lot more than you do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the rich neighborhoods that are just being burnt to the ground. You can hardly name a Hollywood star who lives in Los Angeles who hasn't had their home burnt down. And on the one hand, okay, I'm a compassionate guy. I'm a Christian. I don't like pain and suffering, but I can't help but think this is their own darn fault. It's their own darn fault. I mean, their forestry management plan is to let nature do anything that it wants to do. So for decades, they're warm year round there. Things grow year round. So the brush grows up, it dies, it falls to the forest floor, and they will not do a controlled burn because of the environmentalist wackos there. And then, Gavin Newsom, he cut the fire department. It was the mayor. The mayor cut the fire department budget. They didn't have any water in their reservoirs.
What?
They didn't have any water in their reservoirs. They were keeping at a low level during the winter months to avoid stagnation. That's what I read. So it's like the firefighters, they're doing their best, but they're under budget, and there's just too many fires. And
you need water to put out fires.
Well, I'm just hearing, a lot of people saying this reminds me of the story in the Bible of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh.
And the insurance companies are calling it an act of God because of the winds.
Mm-hmm.
The mainstream media is saying, well, there was a big drought, but I've been talking to people from that area, and they said, no, there hasn't been a big drought. We've had more than normal precipitation this winter. So I think that's just a talking point, and we can't believe it. But I'm torn because on the one hand, yes, I feel compassion for these people. On the other hand, it's their own fault. They've shot themselves in the foot because of their ideology. And now it's going to cost the rest of us a fortune, because who is going to bail these people out? Who's going to have to rebuild Los Angeles? It's not California, because they're already broke.
They're going to have to find a way. Somehow it's where their homes are. Maybe they'll be paying us and we'll get jobs.
Well, I think
No.
the rich people aren't going to have a problem because they're rich.
They'll hire it out. Yeah.
But not everybody is rich there.
No.
One of my fears, and I just said, we should definitely pray for these people.
Well,
Okay. I mean, that's just a decent thing to do. But I'm also going to pray that they stay in California, because we've had a mass exodus from California over the last 5 years. And where are these people going? They're going from California to Texas, to Michigan, to Tennessee, to Georgia, to Florida. And they're not leaving their left-wing politics in California. They're taking it with them. And they're like a herd of locusts or a virus. They come in, they devastate an area. When it's ruined, they move to someplace better, and then they devastate that. So I'm going to pray that they stay in California, rebuild, learn their lesson, pull their heads out of their butts, and start thinking right. Right as in politically, because it actually works. And these people are screwed up. Now, you grew up on the West Coast. You probably have a little more compassion than I do because you're a better person than I. Give it to me straight. What do you think?
Well, I'm sad about the loss. I'm sad about everybody's lives being turned upside down. I'm sure it's really traumatic. And I know that we have, brothers and sisters in the faith that are out there, and I would like to help them. Maybe this will be a wake-up call for California so that they will get their rules and regulations organized better. That would be a really good thing if they could get wiser from all of this.
Yeah. I think they're going to have a big wake-up call when they start to rebuild, because from people on the ground out there, they're telling me that the bureaucracy there to build anything in the state of California is horrendous. It costs a massive amount because of all the environmental regulations and all of that stuff. So they're going to have a really tough time rebuilding, and it's going to cost a massive amount more than it would to build in California than it would to, say, Texas. That's why I'm afraid they're all going to just leave the state and pollute the rest of the country.
They might. But maybe when they come out, they'll learn other ways of looking at life. I mean,
I know. I know that's the way you think, honey.
Yeah.
you
Well,
you
besides-
always think that people will rise to the occasion and will better
thing.
themselves, and sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't.
Oh,
So, yeah,
have to
if you
keep
move,
hoping.
don't move to Michigan. We already have way too many liberals here in Michigan.
also, I think they're victims of voter fraud out there too. So there's
Well,
that.
yeah, I'm still trying to get Canada to take Detroit, but they won't have anything to do with it.
Keep working.
Okay. All right. Well, Sarah, that's a good discussion.
Okay.
I want to know what you folks think. So just send me an email at skip@homedefenseshow.com and tell me what you think. Who knows? Maybe I'm full of crap. All right, Sarah, now it's time for our Home Defense Show Hero of the Week.
Right.
Give us some good news.
Okay. A truck driver intervenes in a highway shootout and wins the Goodyear Highway Hero Award. Commercial truck drivers can be crucial to the country's supply chain, but some serve as champions of safety on the road, acting as first responders in tough situations. Timothy Van Nostran, age 64 and owner-operator of his own logging transport company in Northville, New York, found himself springing into action while driving along Interstate 88 in June 2023. It happened so fast, Van Nostran told Fox News Digital. It's instinct more than anything else, Van Nostran was passing a New York State trooper who had made a traffic stop that escalated into a shootout. I wasn't 100% sure what I saw at first, but I saw the trooper kind of skip sideways a little bit, Van Nostran said. And then I saw the shooter actually pull the gun in his car and start shooting right out through his own back window at the state trooper. A really intense shootout started, and bullets were flying. He used his logging truck to block the suspect from escaping during the 12-minute ordeal. It's a long time when you're standing there listening to it, Van Nostran said. You're second-guessing yourself, but it turned out it was the right decision. When backup arrived, the trooper, who had been wounded, was taken to the hospital and survived. Van Nostran was later honored by the New York State Police and by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company as a highway hero. Goodyear announced it is accepting nominations for its 41st annual Highway Hero Award, recognizing commercial truck drivers for going the extra mile while on the job. The Goodyear Highway Hero Award is one way Goodyear recognizes the importance of the commercial trucking industry, which helps move 72.5% of the U.S. economy's goods, according to American Trucking Associations. Joe Burke, Vice President of Goodyear North America Commercial Business, told Fox News Digital. The purpose of the Highway Hero program is to bring more awareness and appreciation to the powerful impact that commercial drivers can have on the roads, individuals' lives, and communities.
I like truck drivers.
I appreciate what they do.
Well, I have very few negative experiences with truck drivers. Normally when I'm out on the road, and remember when I was hauling that fifth wheeler, it's like they understood what I was doing, and it's like they accommodated me, which is really nice because I didn't know what I was doing.
We needed it.
Yeah, but I have a special place in my heart for truck drivers because they're away from their families for so long of a time and out on the road all of the time. And it's probably not the most exciting job in the world, but if they didn't do what they did, we couldn't have anything.
No.
I mean, they deliver anything that you buy in the store. It was brought there by a truck driver.
Or by mail. If you order by mail, it comes by truck. Yeah.
Yeah. And this guy here, what was his name? Timothy Van Nostrand. This guy, think about what he did. He saw a cop being shot at, and he pulled ahead, and he cut the guy's vehicle off so he couldn't get away. He did not have to do that.
No.
At all. I mean, he put himself in danger. I mean, if the guy is willing to shoot and kill a police officer, he's certainly willing to shoot and kill a truck driver.
Right.
So I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did. The guy did a great job. Timothy Van Nostrand from New York State. Good job, buddy. Good job. All right, Sarah, what's coming up next on the show?
Next, we're talking to Barry County Sheriff Dar Leaf all about law enforcement challenges of domestic violence, drug addiction, and mental illness. Then, in the ShootingClasses.com self-defense report, we'll be speaking with firearms instructor Houston Denham about thieves being shot with their own guns.
In the meantime, God bless and stay safe. Go out and hug a truck driver. We will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
The mere sound of his voice makes women swoon and men storm the gates of hell. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. All right, listeners, before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. Without our sponsors, this show wouldn't be on the air, so we thank you all. And now, I want to welcome a good friend of mine, a friend of like many decades, Sheriff Dar Leaf from Barry County. Dar, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
That made it sound old. Many decades.
Well, after a while, you just can't deny it anymore. I mean, you hit the half century mark, and it's like, okay, yep, I might be getting old, but we're wiser.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll keep telling ourselves that.
Well, yeah, wiser and, just out of shape. I mean, geez.
More stubborn.
Yeah, stubborn. But I think the wisdom part, it can be true. Let's face it. Some people, no matter how long they live, they're not going to get any wiser. But I firmly believe, when you overcome life's problems, you're getting wiser. If you don't overcome life's problems, then you just get more problems. But Dar, just share with people, how long you been sheriff there in Barry County?
I just finished up my fifth term, so 20 years.
20 years. And before that, you were a patrol deputy, right?
That is correct.
Well, Dar, I wanted you on the air today because I wanted to talk about, I guess, domestic violence. When I was doing research for one of my books, Concealed Carry for Christians, I was going over the FBI Uniform Crime Report, and one of the stats that I found that was disturbing but also very interesting is that 80.3% of all murder victims knew their attacker. They were either, co-workers or neighbors or friends, but in most cases they were relatives. And so what that tells me is 80% of the time you already know the person who's most likely to murder you. Comment on that for a second.
Well, you nailed it right on the head. That's the first rock we turn over. I mean, go across, have a murder that happens, we go look for the people closest to them.
Oh, wow. That is so sad, but it kind of makes sense because for me personally, I can't speak for you, but for me personally, I feel more passion, more feelings for the people that I love, and these are typically crimes of passion, aren't they?
Yeah, passion and greed.
Oh, okay. And you said greed?
Yeah, sometimes you can throw some greed in there.
Oh, okay. Like life insurance payments and things like that,
or just money in general. It just depending on there's just a plethora of things when I start talking about the greed, which you might be going after.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just outright anger.
Yeah, well, that's a passion. Well, and this has a special place in my heart because I mean, you know my history, Dar. I mean, we've been friends for so long. In my second marriage, my wife, who, has since died of cancer, she was an abuser. I mean, she had some alcohol and drug addiction problems, and that led to violence, and she was convicted of domestic violence against me. So I've experienced it firsthand. I mean, granted, it's different when it happens to a man, whereas, if a man attacks a woman, he tends to be more effective than when a woman attacks a man. But still, it's a very
Well,
heartbreaking thing.
let me interject here. When you start talking about that 83%, most of them were more than likely intoxicated just alcohol itself. If you go look at the true stats on it. And what it does, it takes you out of your normal, makes you do
Yeah.
things that you normally wouldn't do. Budweiser doesn't make you smarter. Yeah. So, yeah, it's substance abuse is a real issue here in this country. If it wasn't, then we'd be able to put the drug cartels in Mexico and China out of business.
Well, what about mental illness? And here's my thought, Dar. I've always wondered, when you talk about mental illness and any type of addiction, they seem to be wild cards because they put people in an altered state of mind, lowers their inhibitions, and they're more likely to do things that they wouldn't normally do. But I guess, I have family members who have been addicted to drugs and alcohol, and it seems to me that when you have a prolonged addiction, it seems tied into mental illness. If you're not mentally ill before, it's like you kind of become that way. Can you talk to that at all?
Well, that's really not my forte. I can just talk about experience on that. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of mental illness out there. It's to the point now we don't even. I can't tell you. I don't know if you can. What is normal anymore?
Yeah.
Now you add alcohol and maybe some other drugs to that equation, and yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen right there.
Well, as far as how law enforcement deals with domestic violence, let's say you get a phone call, a woman is screaming. She says she's been attacked by her husband or her boyfriend or whatever. What is the normal protocol for law enforcement dealing with that?
Normal protocol. That it's kind of hard to say because it's each one's just a little bit different. We have to enter that house with extreme caution. Most of your officers will get injured on domestic type situations because they get so emotional. And again, you throw that equation of some type of controlled substance in there. And so immediately we separate the two. A lot of times the person who did the assaulting has already left. And there's two sides to every story. Somebody may have started the fight and got the bad end of that fight after they started it. So we have to go out and do a thorough investigation on it, and you have to be open-minded the whole time. And most of the time we'll make an arrest. There are times that we might not make an arrest, and one of those times might be because the other person's has left and we got to go find them.
Yeah.
And again, when we go find them, if they've left the scene, we got one side of the story. We still have to find another person to get the other side of the story. There's two sides every time. So there's quite a few equations to it. Sometimes we make the arrest. We still have to do the paperwork, fill out the warrant paperwork to take them into custody. All that goes right through the courts. If they're not there, same thing. We take what information we have at hand and get what's called a probable cause warrant, which is probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause that this person committed the crime. And we send it up through the court system, which includes our prosecutors. Sometimes we get turned down because there was not enough there, which that's part of the checks and balance.
Yeah. Well, because people are innocent until proven guilty.
That is correct. And if we didn't have enough to make an arrest, then somebody has to speak up and say so.
Yeah. It seems to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it just seems to me if I'm a rookie cop, I'm a brand new cop, maybe I'm like 23 years old, and I'm out there and I'm on a domestic call and I'm trying to figure out, who's telling the truth and who's lying to me. That seems like that's got to be one of the roughest calls for a rookie cop to make.
Yes. And the safety issues too. I see a lot of rookie officers make that mistake. I've gone into domestics before when you got all their kitchen knives laying out on the counter right by where the suspect is at. So
Yeah.
I'll go over and scoop those all up and put them in a dishwasher out of sight.
Yeah.
It's unpredictable. You don't know these people most of the time. And it's just that officers, not just officers, everybody's safety in there, because who knows what's going to tip them to that going off the edge and getting violent with you.
Yeah.
The other thing is being able to recognize. There's one thing about putting something in writing or reading something, and then you have to apply it. In other words, in order to apply it, you have to be able to see it and match it to what you were taught. So when you go on in there and you're called to this domestic, you got to be able to look at the evidence yourself, and it has to make sense to you so you can further do your job. The older you get, more experienced you get, and these young rookie officers, some of them just don't have life experiences like older officers have.
Yeah.
So yeah, a rookie officer coming in there, they're going to have a little bit more of a struggle with that.
And here's one of the things that, I teach my concealed carry students is I tell them, never ignore your gut instincts, because basically your gut instincts are the sum total of every experience that ever happened to you and what you learned from that experience. So it's kind of like, wisdom. And a rookie cop doesn't have that backlog of experiences where he learned about this. So would you ever send a rookie cop in by himself to a domestic, or how's that work?
We don't like sending officers, period, by themselves to a domestic. If that happens, you are really, really short staffed, or you were the first one there and you had to make a rapid entry to break that fight up.
So a life or death thing, someone who was going to get hurt.
Yes. Sometimes if you're the first officer there and it's not, doesn't sound like a big old Donnybrook, you might sit outside and just listen until your backup gets there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I would not want to be a cop these days. I mean, I'm not going to discourage people who feel passionately about it and want to help, but it just seems to me that cops these days, they're always second guessed, and there's a political aspect to it. Is that what you're seeing, or is it just something that's on the news?
You have a group of people who want a federal law enforcement. So what do? You bash your local law enforcement, make them look really bad, and then they can put in their law enforcement they want. That's what I was observing. There is some politics to it, but we have to ignore that. We have to do what's there in front of us. We have to make a decision. We have to make that determination. I've arrested women before on domestics, and it was pretty plain what had happened there. You got let's say you got a domestic going on. The man's trying to leave, trying to cool off, leave, and she keeps preventing him from leaving, starts hitting him. Well, what do we teach after somebody's been in domestic? They go through anger management type training. Well, they teach you to walk away and cool off. Yeah. Well, if they're not allowing you to walk away, hey, guess what? You're the problem.
And it's more likely to escalate.
Oh, yes.
It takes two to have a domestic, right?
Yes.
Wow.
At domestic in Michigan is if you are residing or have ever resided with the other person. So it doesn't have to be male, female. It could be male, male. It could be your two siblings.
That sounds weird to me, and maybe not real wise. Because how do you interject common sense into that?
Well, you're talking, how do you say it? You're trying to take this big paintbrush and make everything look the same when they're not. So common sense, we have to do that when we get there. You can't common sense legislation.
So basically, you go in there, you gather as much evidence, facts as you possibly can. You interject your gut instincts, and you separate them. I think that's a good idea. So, because a man or a woman who's being abused, while they're right in front of the guy that's abusing them, is not really likely to be forthcoming, because they're thinking in the back of their mind, okay, what's going to happen after these two cops leave? I'm going to get the crap kicked out of me.
Right. That's why they encourage arrests on most of these, because they do. They get heated, and like I said, in my career, I only remember being involved in one domestic where both parties were sober, and
Really? Wow.
they were really really loud, but they were so old I don't think they could have hurt each other.
They were adjusted. They had adjusted to each other, and it's like, yes, I hate you, you dirty rotten so and so, but don't you dare leave me.
Yeah, all the others, one or both parties were intoxicated.
I guess that tells the real story. You're from a rural county. Are there any drug problems in rural county, or is it just a big city issue?
There's drug problems everywhere in the world. Don't
Yeah.
let anybody kid you. If there were no drug problems, like I said, the drug dealers would be out of business. Same thing with the child trafficking. I don't know if I'm more angry that people traffic or angry that there's a market for it.
Well, so I guess without drug and alcohol abuse, sheriffs would be more like, Andy Griffith from Mayberry RFD kind of a thing.
That perfect world, yeah.
Well, we can hope and pray for that. That's what I'd like to see, Dar.
And sadly, you got people who you can handle, like Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
But the way the world is and the way law enforcement is today and the attorneys and lawsuits and all this stuff, we can't.
I know.
You know,
It's a totally different world.
well, I'm going to use the drunk driving. You get an officer, I forgot what state it was in, but he pulled over a guy, made it into his driveway for drunk driving. Family comes on out and says, we'll take care of him. We got him. Please don't take him to jail. So we let him go. Half hour later, he's in a vehicle and he takes out a family of 5.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that officer got in trouble, not just civilly, but criminally. Ended up doing some jail time for it. Obviously lost his job, got sued, lost everything. So if you were an officer, would you be taking those chances?
Well, you really can't.
Yeah, you can't.
Wow. It's just such a crazy world. I liked it better 50 years ago, Dar.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I was younger and stronger, too.
Yeah. I had a young man I pulled over, and it was just for a headlight out. And he was the normal nervous because you get pulled over. And as I'm walking up, I see a revolver and the box that you buy it in right next to it. But the revolver is sitting right there on the seat, right next to the box. I'm going, well, that's a little weird. So I went up, got all of his information, and then I asked him, I said, I told him why I pulled him on over and all that good stuff like you normally do. And I said, I got a question for you. And he said, what's that? And I said, why is your pistol sitting on the back seat? Oh, my goodness. I thought he was going to wet himself. He got so nervous. And then he told me what happened. He just turned 21, just bought it. He and his buddy are out at the range. They shot up all their ammunition, and they got talking, solving the world's problems. And then he forgot it was in the back seat. They just took off, and he had a headlight out. So do I go on out and throw him in jail and risk of getting a felony on his record and all that stuff? Well, no, I didn't. I asked him if I could look at it, make sure it was unloaded. I did. I put it in a box, asked him to step out of the car, handed it to him, says, put it in the trunk where it belongs. He said, you're not taking me to jail? And I said, do you want me to? And no. I said, well, go take care of it the way you're supposed to and let it be today's lesson. I had an attorney at a meeting that I was explaining this to, because to me, that's law enforcement. I enforced the law, made him go put it back where it was. It's no different than a kindergarten teacher tell you to bring your crayons and you take a pencil and then she sends you back to go get your crayons, and there again, didn't plug up the courts, didn't cost some attorney fees and excuse me, all the other stress that goes with that. Nobody robbed a bank that night. Nobody got shot that night.
Yeah.
But that's getting harder and harder to do today.
Yeah, because you just never know, because there is so much drug abuse and mental illness and alcoholism and the whole whammy. But well, Dar, hey, I want to thank you very much for the benefit of your experience. And hey, everybody loves a good cop story, so I appreciate that as well, Dar. Dar, before you go, can you tell people where can they go to find out more about the Berry County Sheriff's Office?
Well, they come right here to Berry County and find out if they want.
Well, let's say they live in Ohio.
Oh, all right. Go on to the Berry County, Michigan. There's a Berry County, Missouri also. People get us mixed up all the time. And it's funny because it's the same postmaster, because this Berry County is named after a postmaster here.
Oh, okay.
So Berry County, Michigan, get on our website and it'll show you what the size of our county is, how many lakes, and because we got like 327 lakes that have names.
Good
And
fishing and good hunting too.
and a lot of mosquitoes.
Yes. All right. Well, hey, Dar, I want to thank you for your service to our country, to our county, and for being my friend. Thank you very much, Dar.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Coming up next, we'll get some expert advice on the details of self-defense in our shootingclasses.com self-defense report with firearms instructor Houston Denham from the great state of Oklahoma. All right, folks, during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I just posted a 7-minute video there called The Fat Man Inside Me. You listen to that, get a little chuckle, and maybe you can even relate to it. All right, God bless and stay safe, because we will be right back.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me, and I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
Liberals hate him, small children fear him, but God keeps on loving him anyway. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with Houston Denham from the great state of Oklahoma. Houston, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Hi, Skip. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, not a problem at all. I always enjoy our talks here. You know, I love talking to people from all over the country. I'm in Michigan, you're in Oklahoma, and last week I was talking to someone from Ohio, week before that, Florida. It's just, it's a wonderful country that we have, and very diverse. So I like that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, everyone seems to be sick these days, no matter what state they're from, California, whatever. All right. Well, Houston, why don't you start out? Tell people where you teach and how they can find out more about you.
Well, I teach right here in Oklahoma City. You can look me up on shootingclasses.com/TAC/. I do everything from basic handgun all the way up to tactical shooting. I do rifle, carbine, and pistol, of course, and I do disability shooting. I have what I call a Young Guns program where 10, 11-year-olds get to come out and learn gun safety and actually learn how to shoot and things like that.
You're like a one-stop shopping place for personal defense.
Try to be, yes.
All righty. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read you this article, and then you and I will break it down. So here we go. The title reads, Alleged Armed Robber. That strikes me as funny. Alleged armed robber. They're always so careful to protect the reputation of armed robbers these days. It just really freaks me out.
They do that with everybody.
Oh, I know they do. Alleged armed robber in Chicago killed by own firearm. Maybe it should be allegedly killed by own firearm. We'll see. Chicago police believe an attempted robbery went sideways in the city's West Garfield neighborhood Saturday, and the suspect ended up being shot by his own weapon. Authorities responded to an emergency call involving 3 men beating another man just before 3 p.m. But what they found on arrival was dramatically different from what they had likely expected. The 3 men were indeed striking another person on the ground, but he was the alleged armed robber. Also, he suffered a gunshot wound to the chest. Investigators were able to piece together events leading up to the chaotic scene. Police believe that a 43-year-old man was working outside when he was approached by the suspected robber. The assailant displayed a firearm and demanded that he hand over money and valuables. The victim did not play along, however, and instead fought with his armed attacker. As the 2 men struggled, the suspect's gun fired and struck him in the chest. When police broke up the melee, the suspect was transported to the University of Chicago Medical Center and pronounced dead there. Investigators recovered his firearm at the scene along with a ski mask. The evidence apparently supported accounts provided by the intended victim and several eyewitnesses. The man who was attacked while simply going about his work is fortunate that he was not struck by the shot from his alleged assailant's firearm. Had he been prepared with a firearm, he likely would have defended himself better, not been in such a dangerous situation. No one is in custody. Chicago police continue to investigate. What are your initial thoughts on that, Houston?
Chicago is not a place to be messing around in, it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Well, I tell my students this, every one of them. I said, just because you have a gun doesn't mean that you know how to defend yourself with it. You need to know how to defend yourself with the gun, and you also need to have some type of weapon retention training, because that's a prime example of what happens.
Yeah.
Somebody will take your gun from you, and then you've got all kinds of problems going on. In this case, that guy lost his life because he thought he knew what he was doing.
In this case, it was the criminal, or the alleged criminal, that lost his life because he couldn't retain his firearm. But the same thing goes for, honest law-abiding citizens, guys like you and me.
Exactly.
If I pull my gun and I can't protect the gun, then if I can't protect it, it doesn't really belong to me.
That is correct. That is so correct. And, I can guarantee probably 80% of the people carrying a gun nowadays do not have weapon retention training.
Yeah.
And it's just a false sense of security is all they're getting,
Yeah. It's like having a teddy bear.
Exactly.
Well, I know, I don't know what they teach in Oklahoma. In Michigan, they don't teach retention at all. Basically, you get the bare minimum. It's an 8-hour class. Basically, we teach you how to not shoot yourself by accident. You get some firearm safety, the basics of marksmanship, but that's all you're required up here.
Same way here. Same way here in Oklahoma. They don't care if you can defend yourself, defend that gun from anybody, or even if you can really hit your target, but they just want to make sure that you're safe. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. What do you think about, okay, in this particular situation, bad guy drew the gun on, the alleged good guy. Okay, we'll play that game. And the good guy said, no, you're not doing that. Apparently he reached out, he grabbed the gun. They were struggling for it. The gun went off and killed the bad guy. What kind of training do you like to see people get when it comes to that close quarters combat where you might end up struggling for a weapon?
Well, there's what we call, I give a defensive shooting class, is teach you to shoot, and that target's 3 feet or less away from your body, and you're learning to pull the weapon back away from the individual so he cannot get to it. It's hard to explain. You must maintain control of that firearm at all times without somebody trying to take it from you, because the robber probably had it stuck out there like Matt Dillon, and it's full extended arm, and that gave him his left wide open. So they need to start learning how to shoot close up, and if it comes to physical contact, body to body contact, they just need to learn how to suck that gun back and let it do its job without it being, able for them to take it from you.
One thing that I've noticed, Houston, is, when you get arm's length, it's like, okay, and someone shoves a gun out. A lot of times they'll shove it right into your rib cage or something. And if you know what you're doing, you can grab that gun. The one thing I tell my students, listen, if you're within that arm's length distance there and you decide, okay, I'm going to go for this guy's gun, the number one thing is you miss that gun, you're going to get shot. So if you go for the gun, you have to get the gun.
That's correct. There's nothing further from the truth right there.
Yeah. And with some automatics, if you can grab onto it, I mean, you got some pretty good leverage. Let's say it's a full-size Glock. You grab towards the end of the barrel, you can grab his wrist with your other hand, you can twist it around. You just don't want to put your hand over the barrel, because that's a really bad place to be. With revolvers, you can grab onto the cylinder, and then they can't even, the cylinder won't rotate and the gun won't go off. But I guess number one thing, if you go for the gun, you have to get the gun. But there's that no man's land. Like, let's say you're out at 6 or 8 feet. How do you close that distance on a guy who's pointing a gun at you? In a situation like that, I might be more, if I don't have a gun, I might be more likely to comply and say, okay, fine, take my wallet, whatever, because he's going to be able to shoot me before I can close that distance.
Correct. Yes, you have to be smart about this. Most of these bad guys, I don't know about up there. Down here, it seems like everything is 4 feet or less. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what their thinking is of the process. The further south they go, but we had carjackers the other night shooting at people that were coming out to stop them from breaking in their cars, and they were like 5 feet away from them.
Oh,
so, wow! It's crazy. Once you get a hold of the gun, especially if it's a semi-automatic Glock or whatever, you can take it out of battery just by putting pressure on the slide. As you grip it, and it won't go off. I mean,
yeah.
It's called taking it out of batteries. What it is all it's doing. So,
yeah. Well, the guy had a lot of chutzpah, to do what he did, and I get the impression, coming out of Chicago, there's been so much crime there. I just get the impression that people are sick and tired of it, and they're more likely to fight back now than they were, say, 3-4 years ago. That's what I'm noticing in the news.
Noticing that here in Oklahoma as well, Skip. People are standing up. People are, they're coming to my class, and I ask everyone, I said, why did you decide to, learn to shoot, or why did you want to take this class? And they were like, well, I got to be able to defend myself, and I want to know what I'm doing. And
yeah,
it's more. Those are the two main answers I get every class.
Hey, Houston, we're about out of time for this segment, but before you go, please tell people again, how can they get a hold of you?
You can reach me at TAC Training Assessment Cell on shootingclasses.com at /TAC/. I'm right here in Oklahoma City.
Well, Houston, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you, Skip. Be talking to you soon.
Okay, folks, this is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show, and that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, CenterShot Indoor Gun Range at CenterShotGunRange.com, ShootingClasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, and the United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to USCCA.com. All right, I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my 3-book series, The COVID Chronicles. It's a great read, and I know you'll love it. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. All right, please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on The Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!